Hi, and welcome to the SME Data Podcast. We are here today with Russell. Russell, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about 2by2?
Yes, I'm Russell Stables. I'm the Operations Director for 2by2. We're a procurement services company based in South Wales. We are offering services to schools, businesses, charities, churches, um, um, in order to support them with procurement needs, and that can include running collective buying groups, specialist consultant support where that's required, tender management, and right through to fully outsourced procurement management if that's what our customers want. Ultimately, what we want to do is save companies and organisations money so that they can get on with doing what their core mission is. That's sort of what guides us.
Yeah, sounds good. So if I can just start by asking you then, there's going to be loads of SMEs out there with business leaders in the same position thinking, I should be doing more with my data. Where do I start? What the potential challenges would be. Maybe they're aware of some of those, maybe they're not. But can you just sort of start by sharing a bit about your sort of main data challenges?
I think, and I'm probably not unique in this, is we have so much of it. Even for an SME, when you start looking at it, we have a lot of data. And actually, once you start the process of looking at it, you find you have even more. So I think our biggest challenge was firstly just trying to review what we had, and we did carry out an exercise looking at all our data sources, listing them, and talking to those relevant departments, and trying to just get a picture. Okay, where are our data sources? What are they telling us? And then from that point, sort of prioritising what do we need to look at first. It could be quite overwhelming at the start, and so I think prioritisation and understanding, okay, where are the key pieces of data that we want to look at initially, is what we found important as we started looking at our data in more detail.
Cool. And what was driving that to begin with? What made you start thinking we need to do something about this? We need to look at it in more detail and use it as a strategic asset.
Um, I think we've always known there's we have a lot of value in the data that's around us, and it's been untapped. And really, it just came to a point where we, as senior leaders in the business, says, okay, we need to do something with this. We need to start making progress. And then, as I said, once we started looking into it, that opinion just became stronger. That there's a whole load of value around us that will help us be more efficient in our business. Will help us interact with our customers better, be able to offer them more value, which ultimately is top of our list. Sort of, it just came to the realization, okay, it's all very well known it, but we actually need to do something about it and start making steps forward in that area.
Cool. And can you tell us given us an example of how you've achieved that? If you've got to the end of that journey, or sort of if you've been able to sort of show value in a small area before you're sort of scaling that to be sort of broader and bigger for the business.
I mean, what we're working on, and we're definitely still on a journey, definitely not there, but what we've been working on, well, we are working on at the minute, is some KPI reports for our key business areas. And what we found is that we have version 1 of that KPI report, and it's like we've described it as just switching a light on in a room, and suddenly you find all this information in this data storage cupboard. Some of it's filed nicely, but there's also bits of paper scattered all over the floor. There's some folders in the wrong filing cabinet. Um, um, but we're seeing that as a positive, and I think it's important that is important for us as well, that you turn this light on and you see things that aren't actually how you would like them to be. But that's the first step. And what we're finding with our KPI reports at the minute, that we're taking time. Okay, let's look at that. Let's QA that. Let's run that for a few weeks or a month or so. Get that right before we start drilling down into because you can't keep drilling and getting more insight, but getting that top level first. And that's where we're at the minute as an organisation. We're running our KPI reports. That is shining the light on a whole load of things, giving a lot of value to us, but it's also showing where things aren't quite right. And we're spending time get that right. Actually, this quarter is what we're focused on. Get that KPI data right, and then next quarter, let's start drilling down further.
Okay. And that value that you get from it, is it saving money? Is it new opportunities that you uncover? Is it just getting things right for existing customers? What does that look like for you?
I think it's a bit of all of that, really. It's ultimately we want to understand our customers better and offer them more value. So it is helping us have insight there. tracking where we are with our customers, how many contracts they've used, and what's the value of those contracts, renewal dates, etc. Just bringing that all together is a journey that we're on at the minute, which will help us ultimately serve our customers better. And then also efficiency within the organisation. As I said, we may find out that, I don't know, for example, there's an issue with this data field consistently that actually is causing problems further down the stream. So let's get that sorted. Let's talk to those people. Let's if we need further training, let's implement further training in order to make the business more efficient, and building towards that place where quality is built in rather than inspecting it out at the end. This is probably part of the exercise of inspecting it out at the end, because we need to identify where the issues are. But ultimately, we'll get to that point where actually we get quality right from the start and becomes a more efficient operational process.
Mm-hmm. Great. And then is that going to be something that the whole company get involved with? I mean, who gets involved in data there?
Yes, something else that is we're learning from. It's important we engage with all with the people across the organisation. Otherwise, and we have experience of this certainly, where we've been running a project to do with data, and if I just pick a department operations, I'll pick my operations, and we've been running, it's given us really good value. And then maybe in a few weeks' time, we talk to finance and they say, oh, if you'd done it this way, that would have been good value to us as well. So we had a few instances of that early on. So what we've actually done to help address that is set up a data team. They meet fortnightly. And the point of that team isn't really to resolve specific data issues in that half an hour. It's more just to give an awareness to representatives from each department in the organisation of what's going on, what projects are we running that have data implications. So then that gives them, first of all, the opportunity to be aware of it, and also to question it and say, okay, if you're doing that in operations, actually in procurement, it would be helpful if you could also pull out this. So to try being more efficient in our data projects. So that's been up and running since July, and I think that's been a good move for us, just to give that visibility across the organisation of what we're doing with our data.
That sounds good. And what tools are you using to do that?
As far as data visualization, primarily we're using Power BI at the moment, and that we do have some levels of reporting we can do with our CRM system, and we are looking at our finance system, which would give us additional reporting as well. So it's a bit of a mix. So I'd say primarily Power BI for visualizing the data.
So would you say that it's about sort of looking after your customers better and doing what you're doing now as a service for them more efficiently, sort of finding your opportunities there? Or is it about looking for broader opportunities for the business for the future and your sustainability?
I think it's probably both. Certainly internally, we want to understand more about how our customers are engaging with us, when they're engaging with us, because that can affect how we market to our customers, what products they're using. Because again, we can focus. Well, it gives a sight of what products are running well, which ones could run better, and where if a customer's using product A, okay, let's see if they're interested in product B as well. So it gives us more visibility of the customer's engagement from us, which helps with our sales and how we can offer value to the customer. But then I think going forward, we're also aware that our customers themselves have a load of data, which isn't in some cases particularly well organised. And I think there's an opportunity there for us to say to the customers, okay, let us have your procurement data, and let us use our data expertise to order that, to give you insight. Okay, this is where your spend areas are. This is what you're spending a lot on. This is what you're spending not very much on. Because of the spend levels, this is the engagement level you should have with your suppliers. So that's something where we think we can add value to the customer as well. That if we can ask them for the data, obviously within the respect and privacy, etc. That is an area where we can help our customers through the lessons we're learning from what we're doing with our data internally.
That sounds really good, Russell. And would you say that there's going to be sort of change internally for you guys? I mean, sort of tech is the start of that journey with being sort of more data driven, and the sort of the culture that follows that is a really important part. Is that something that's naturally happening internally, or is that something that the data team or others have to work harder at?
I think very much in the last 12 to 18 months, there's definitely an appreciation within the organisation that we have a lot of data, like I said at the start, and we can do a lot more with it. And there's a lot of departments crying out for support there. That yes, if we could interpret what we've got here meaningfully, this is a huge opportunity here. So I don't think it's an issue of people not buying into the opportunity that we have here. It's more, I suppose the resource and the time it takes to get to the level of insights that we want. We have about just over a year ago, we brought in a data analyst, and he's working very well for us and giving us great insight. Prior to that, we worked with Data Cubed, and now we have a bit of a balance of both that. We have our data analyst who provides internal support where we need specific expertise. We can use our external contractor who's been Data Cubed. So we seem to have a good balance at the minute, which is working well for us. So yeah, to answer your question, I don't think there's anyone who would argue that there's a lot we can do with data. It's just how can we get there quicker?
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned the time and resource. Is that kind of that balance of internal and external, how you overcome that to sort of be able to hit those deadlines?
Yes, I think because internally you need that person who understands the business very well, and when we ask a data question, can come back answering the question, but also saying, but actually this is quite interesting here, or if you segregate the data this way, because of his understanding of the business, this gives you an interesting insight as well. But then there is sometimes more technical aspects, integration of various data sources, where we need that more expert support, and that's where again contracting that support in has been useful for us as well. So it'd be cost prohibitive for us to have a data scientist on site full time, but if there's times when we need a specific data scientist for that topic resource, then it makes sense for us to contract that out at the appropriate time.
Okay. So Russell, what would be your top tip for any other SME that's sort of at the beginning of their data journey that can learn from your insight?
Probably a couple of things spring to mind, but I think the first one is make a start. And I think that's important. As I say, for years we were aware of this data goldmine we had, but it was quite daunting. But I think so make a start, and then prioritize what you want to know. As I say, when you switch on that light, you'll find a whole load of data, even more than you thought. And when it's highlighting things that are wrong, then treat that as a positive, as I mentioned earlier, because I think that's important, and learn from it. Prioritize your needs, engage the organisation. That's important, so the organisation knows what's going on with data, and if our experience is anything to go with, they'll engage positively because they will also see the benefits of that. And then what we just talked about, I think finding the right balance between external and internal support just helps the project move along smoother. So sorry, that's more than one tip, but that's what came to mind when you asked the question.
So then thinking about kind of where you stand on opportunities, is there kind of one thing that, because not everyone gets excited about data, right?
Yeah.
But then thinking about what it does for your business, the insight it gives you, the power that you have then to make better decisions, what kind of thing would excite you most about that in the future? The way you can see the business going and the sort of the vision you have for your goal and your end place?
I think if we get to the position where we can help our customers with their data as well. So we're a procurement services company. We want to help them with their procurement. That's our bread and butter. But as I mentioned earlier in our conversation, what we are finding out more and more is the organisations we work with also have a whole load of data relating to their procurement that could be managed much better and could give them much greater insight. So I think that's an area that's exciting for us to look at, to talk to our customers about the procurement needs and also the data surrounding the procurement, and how we can help that, how we can make that meaningful, and how they can use that to add value to their organisation, ultimately serve their customers better. And also using the data from when a customer comes in, whatever route that is, understanding where the touch points are, understanding their needs, right through to when they take up a contract. How do we keep that relationship strong, using data just to inform that 360 view we talk about of our customers. I think there's a huge opportunity there. Yes, AI. It's amazing what's coming down the road in that area, and that's something we're interested in. But while still retaining the a personal relationship with the customer as well. So it's not just a bot, that they know that we're people here who are looking to serve them well.
And when you talk to your peers and maybe some of your competitors, or maybe just fellow business leaders, kind of where do you find that you're sort of ahead of the game in the data sense?
I would like to think we are we're making good progress there. Yeah, and as I say, as you mentioned, we talk to other leaders. We have friends, colleagues. I think there's certainly a consistency that people see the challenge of data, and I think the fact that we have acknowledged that challenge clearly, and we've created our data infrastructure, and we're actively working on data reporting. Yes, if I talk to others, not in every case, but I think we're well down that road. That road, and it's a good place to be in a place that we need to be.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Well, thank you so much for sharing all your insights and your sort of your journey so far, and how interesting it's been for you, and sort of the exciting future that's paving for you as a business. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much for your time.
Look forward to hearing more about how it goes.
Okay,
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Helen.